one prospect for the Republican presidential nominee in the year 2012 is an unemployed blogger who quit her job so she could spend more time on Facebook and still had to hire somebody else to write her book for her. Our third story tonight, if you consider the prospect of half Governor Sarah Palin running for president 3 years ago from now a political apocalypse, unquote, you're not a terrorist, Palin, un-American pinko, Charlie. You're one of several top political advisors to Republican Senator John McCain. Now it is John Weaver telling the Washington Post he's almost sure Palin would never win his party's nomination, and that if she did, quote, it would surely mean a political apocalypse is upon us. In fact, using special effects, we can even simulate in visual terms exactly what kind of political apocalypse the Republican Party would have to look forward to in 2012. Weaver was reacting to an only slightly less dire prediction from another McCain campaign vet, his campaign manager, Steve Schmidt, who was asked about Palin 2012 on Friday.
My honest view is that she would not be a winning candidate for the Republican Party in 2012. And in fact, were she to be the nominee, we could have a catastrophic election result.
Palin, of course, in the news right now thanks to her #1 book, a book that became #1 thanks in part to right-wing groups buying it in bulk on pre-order and planning to give it away as part of a promotional vehicle. Let's turn now to Margaret Carlson, political columnist for Bloomberg News and Washington editor for The Week magazine. Margaret, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
If you put the Schmidt and the Weaver quotes together, you get catastrophic apocalypse or catastrophocalypse. Can you put this in some sort of context for us? What does it take? How often has this ever happened before for Republican operatives to sort of break rank 3 years in advance and savage a former running mate like this?
Well, it doesn't happen that often. Steve Schmidt did this at the Washington Ideas Forum, and I was there, and he does not do it with glee. It would be in his interest to push Sarah Palin in that Republicans like to do things in an orderly fashion, and Sarah Palin would be next in row to run for president, since presumably at 76, John McCain will be too old to run. So he's not doing it out of self-interest. It is out of having been very, very close for a number of months. No other political strategist has been that close, and concluding that she's not fit to run, and that putting her forward would injure the Republican Party, as he said, catastrophically.
But are they right about this on some sort of objective level, or is this just sniping by two sides around a massive schism like Goldwater people versus Rockefeller people in 63 and 64?
Well, they'd like a Rockefeller kind of person. Some Republicans would like a Rockefeller type to run, because while they have some passion on the right in Sarah Palin, they don't have any passion in the middle, or a passionate middle candidate to attract the voters that they were sorely lacking in the last election. If Steve Schmidt and John Weaver and others had a candidate in front of them, I think they would, be happy, but they just don't. And having, in a piece in Vanity Fair, Steve Schmidt was quoted as calling Sarah Palin a mental case and trying to get her ready for the debates. She would take no advice whatsoever, and towards the end, only from her family. She would only speak to members of her family who had never been in a debate before.
Mr. Schmidt has also reportedly said that Mrs. Palin has not done anything since last year to broaden her base, as if quitting a job isn't doing something. But if he's right, what, if anything, could she do to broaden her base?
Well, candidates often retreat, study, get in touch with the leading thinkers in their party. She could go to Cato or Heritage. There are any number of them. She could seek out, foreign policy experts. There's always been an anti-intellectual streak, actually, in both parties, the populism of both parties. Sarah Palin seemed, but lots of times the candidates are faking it. They're actually quite intelligent and have gone to Ivy League universities and a whole bunch of other things, and they fake it. But Sarah Palin seems genuinely committed to knowing as little as possible.
Well, she's doing a great job. Listen to me, I'm complimenting her. She's doing a great job of that. Margaret Carlson of Bloomberg News and The Week magazine. Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks, Keith.